won't have to cry no more.
New Beginning proudly presents the ethos of Black Families First, a Black History Weekender annual celebration,
which is comprised of our kings, queens, scholars, speakers and global families within the Black community to embrace the DLA Rites of Passage International Exchange Programme for youths aged between 15 and 21 years old.
This is in honor of the late, great, rest in power Dr. Llaila Afrika. The online fundraising event will be held on the 15th and the 16th of August this year. So please, give what you can to invest in our youth.
The two-day event will also be broadcasted via BLACKICETV7 on Facebook as well as YouTube. Black Power starts with your melanin, uniting the Black family first.
With no feeling of control, as we wonder what it is and we wonder what it was and we wonder where we'll go.
If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not to struggle, then goddamn it, you don't deserve to win. Let me say peace to you if you're willing to fight for it. Let me say it in the spirit of liberation. I've been gone for the while.
So my leaders ass gone, all my leaders ass gone. I know they did you so wrong and still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, against all the wrongs. So my leaders ass gone, all my leaders ass gone. I know they did you so wrong, I still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs.
Greetings, family. As we have two of our family in the house, and as we're going to introduce one of the big, I can't even say, I don't even know what to say. I'm so shy introducing two powerhouses in the house. First of all, I'll introduce Dr. Tony Luck. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good.
Hello. How are you,
Yes,
both?
Mama. How you doing? Good to see your face again. pleasure to have you. I enjoyed the last time so much. Yeah, me definitely.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to introduce Professor Bello as well. Greetings. I'm well obliged for you to come on our platform today.
Greetings to you, and thank you for having me.
Again, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I did enjoy our last time as well. Very insightful. Yeah, me. So I'm looking forward to the two powerhouses now together supporting the movement. Before we start, to remind the people, like, subscribe, you know the usual. Sorry, go on, Terry. What was you going to say?
Make the conversation. I've just got to make one phone call, and I'll come back in.
All right, cool. That's fine. All right, Pete, before we begin the conversation with the two elder sisters, you know the routine. Like, share, subscribe, donate. We are here to support the Dr. Llaila Afrika Youth Exchange Program for 15 to 21-year-olds on rites of passage. This is something we feel very passionate about, and we believe in the Black family first motto here at Black Eyes TV. And again, this is a Black History Weekender. So again, we've got two sisters who have oodles of history knowledge between them and experience as well as life and book knowledge. So again, you know, thank you again for both joining us. And let's just start off with a nice simple one of Black family and the importance of the female role within that dynamic. How important is that to nation building and us achieving our goals as a collective group? I'll start with you, Dr. Tony, and then we'll go to Sister Bella, if that's okay.
Well, first of all, good evening to you guys and to everybody around the world. I know some places this morning. Great blessings to have seen Queen Afua, who has done just amazing work over the last, I don't know, I don't want to date you, sis, but as long as I can remember things happening that were important, Queen Afua was there. This is an amazing opportunity. So, Richie, I want to thank you and Terry once again for pulling this together to even have this conversation. It's been a long time since we've had this kind of conversation about the family, the Black family, the role of Black women, the role of holistic health, the role of the impact of Africa on all of our lives. And so I just thank you guys for putting this together. I'm excited about Black Ice TV, and we've certainly shared with everyone to like you and join and subscribe. So you've asked about the Black woman. This is kind of touchy for me because I almost feel like I'm trying to take Black women to before, cavemen. But I think that we are the linchpin of the world, and we're the linchpin of the family. I grew up in a multi-generational home with 4 generations of Black women who went to work, traveled for hours to go clean white women's houses. My great-grandmother came over on the slave ship, and my grandmother was born in slavery. And so I'm not far removed from that Holocaust. But those women I grew up with and around, my mother was very late having her first child, which was me. They were always home. There was something about the home being, excuse me, a solid place. And so even if your mother worked, there was someone at home, auntie, a great aunt, a sister. We always had a cohesive place for our children to come home to. And that is really missing. Modernity has done some things to our families that we really at least need to talk about, that doesn't denigrate women having equity or justice. But we must admit at this point that the woman being so absent, or the family cohesive, not just the woman, but we used to have, like I said, multi-generational homes. So even if mom had to work, there was someone at home, and the home was a central place where the family felt safe. And I think we've missed that and we've lost that. What do you think, Professor? Do you think that's kind of where we are?
Yes, but if you would allow me, greetings to everyone. And I would like to start with a witness, with what we call that again? Bearing witness. Dr. Llaila Afrika, when the earthquake happened in Haiti, 2010. I also have to give greetings to Inuni, who's transitioned also, Brother Inuni. He's the one who called Dr. Llaila Afrika and told him when I came to the States and had 5 broken ribs, my collarbone in 3 pieces. And Dr. Llaila Afrika spoke to me on the phone for about an hour. He asked questions like, where did your hair first start turning gray? And, question that I felt was kind of odd. But then he would say, oh, you started in the front, so that means you have to watch out for your kidneys. You need to drink more water. What happened to this? He would have questions. And on the phone, within an hour, he had diagnosed and told me exactly what to do to be well. And today I am well, and I have to, it's important for me that I say this publicly, and I looked at this whole, ask me, Adon, I looked at the whole situation as, we're talking about family. Yes, there is the immediate family in the home, but then we also have that larger family that when you can call on someone and say, oh, hey, listen, here's what happened to our sister in IT, and say, oh, yeah, let me talk to her. Let me see what I can do. That too is family. So thank you, Dr. Llaila Afrika. Thank you, Brother Inuni from New Jersey, for bringing us together. So now to go back to what my sister was talking about. Yes, indeed. We have always had, if we go back, like we look at in Africa, the family is a huge thing. The family is not mother, father, children. It's a huge structure. So it enabled us to do whatever each person had to do to accomplish your mission in life without worrying about somebody missing out on something. For example, I remember when I was in Nigeria, most children did not know of the 3 wives of their father who was their mother, because that was not important to the society, because what was important is that whoever was there, that was the mother. And the person had to do whatever had to be done for all the children. In fact, in Hausa, they have a saying. They have a saying that says, if the house is on fire, make sure you save the other wife's children first. No woman would go after her own child first. That would be looked at something, somebody with no upbringing, no value of life. So if we take from there, then we've come here, we know, under the Maafa, horrible situation, horrible structure, and a structure that was determined to make us forget who we are and what we knew. So then they bring us here. At first, the family was forbidden. We could not marry. Men and women did not marry. You could not have a family. You would be a thing of some evil something that I'm not sure is human, but this thing could take you and do whatever it wanted to. And it split up our families into smitters. If we just take a boat, carrying loads of us, they could drop the brother in Cuba, the sister in Saint Domingue, the auntie in Puerto Rico, and the mother in the United States. So we have very little chance of being able to trace back and reconnect. So they think, but there are ways. So now when we come to the family structure in slavery or colonial situations, it's obvious they did everything. So the word family shouldn't even exist for us. But yet our resilience enabled us to reconnect and recreate. If I take IT as an example, in the Maroon villages, when you got away from the plantation and created your own world situation, everything was about competence. We didn't care if the warrior person was female or male. That's the warrior person. She can have babies. There will be somebody to take care of the baby. And that baby will not be missing a mother. If it is the older man who was best teacher, then he would be teaching the children whatever they had to know. So we created a new family. And in IT, we have this saying, neighbors are family members. Neighbors are sheets to cover yourself with. So it brings the neighbor family, as we call a lot of people, auntie, uncle, have nothing to do with blood structure. But if they live close to us for our daily activity, then that's family. So we create every time new definitions as to where's the family and who is family and how the family will can survive. Unfortunately, in more recent times, I'm not sure I will call those times modern, because modern is supposed to be an improvement from what was. So different maybe, but modern, I don't know. So anyway, what we have now is a structure where the Black family tends not to adhere so much to her own worldview and her own structure. And we're sort of keeping up with, I can't even call them the Joneses, because I'm not sure they, the things we're following are not us, and I'm not certain they're human. So we need to really check that out. But in spite of it all, in spite of all their television, in spite of all the everything, the Black family does find ways to recreate itself every time in every situation. And I applaud us in that way.
Most definitely. We're joined now by two more special guests. Much blessings and respect. Riggsy, introduce, please.
I'm going to first introduce the king, the king of the Gar people from Ghana, and allow him to present himself, his title, and what he does, and how he maneuvers, and how his people, and give the public the information about who your people are and where they're from. King.
Okay. My royal greetings to all of you.
Yeah.
And I humbly greet you from the Gan Adangbe state of Ghana. My name is Nene Tete Ayiku Abodono IV of the Adan state, head of the Kabiawechu clan of Adan, the kingmakers of Adan. I humbly greet you in the name of the Creator and also in the name of our ancestors. My presence here is to contribute to the lost links that is being experienced by Black people all over the world. So, I'm very honored that I'm on this August platform. And I'm so delightful that Black people are trying to come together so that we can all trace our origin, which we call in Ghana, Sankofa. Let's go back to our origin. Because we Black people, they uprooted us from our origin. And as we are being uprooted, taken somewhere all over the world, and any tree without solid roots can never flourish. So last year was the return of the royals. And I think we should continue so that the biblical saying of 400 years in slavery that came last year, which people of Israel now think they are, no, it's us. We are the original Israelites. And we have to go back home. So this meeting is a great thing starting for us, we Black people. And I always say that the kings and the queens of Africa, we were there when the Black people came and took our brothers away. And an adage in Africa says that wherever you climb the tree to the top, when you are descending the tree, you have to take the same route. So I say that the politicians has failed us because they were not there when all these atrocities happened. So it's time for African royals or monarchies to come together, synergy with political leaders, so that we can heal the wounds. So in effect, I wouldn't go long. This is the time. And this is our time. Before I tell every Black person that if you happen to find yourself born in this time in history, then you have an assignment for the world. What I mean by saying that is posterity will never forgive us if we fail. Because we've been placed in a very crucial time in history. That what we do now will give liberation to our ancestors. And will give liberation to us present. And will give liberation to the future. So we are in a very sensitive time in history that we have to act. Black people all over the world, we have to act. So that we go back to our roots. Because our names have been changed. Our whole personality and everything has been taken away. So we, as Black people, have to come together and make sure we return to our roots. We go back for our names. Because in creation, the connection with God is first the family. That's the first state of humanity. And if your name is taken away, then which means you, the person as a whole being, has been destroyed. So, this is a short introduction I have. Thank you very much.
And we have this special guest, our beautiful queen, as she is coming on board with that beautiful smile. I don't know how to start with our queen, but I said, you're on mute.
Oh, okay. How is now?
Fine, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all. Peace and blessings, everyone. It's such a marvelous experience to see these 2 days of just a lineup of amazing people. And among those amazing people, I have my mothers there. I have my fathers there, sons and daughters who are shining their best light. And it's just absolutely amazing. And it's also give us an idea of the diversity of the African experience, because, you know, when we talk about unity, we have to be careful not to talk about unicity. Unity in diversity. So we are all diverse. We have had so many different experiences. We come just as the continent with all flying different colors and different vibes. And it's a great thing to see that we are all reunited in this beautiful platform. So really today, my message, after seeing this emphasis on a lot of the family, just highlighting the importance of the African family, the importance of the core values, that what makes us, you know, Africans, is really to see that the family is now put in the honor back to where she belongs, because this is really the Ubuntu principle that we talk about. I am because you are, starts with the family and starts with the cell. And from the family, we can go to the community, then from the community, we can go outward to the world. So I am very happy. At the same time, of course, I heard a lot of concerns about the things that are going on for the African people, but I want to always go and look at the path ahead of us, but also see what we have already accomplished. When we talk about African history, it's essential to know who we are, but it's also essential to rediscover who we are by ourselves, because a lot of the history that we have been told about who we are is the history that other people have written. And so we have taken a lot of this information in, and we have never questioned a lot of these information. So today it's the time where we can start questioning every single piece of information that was put into our brain, into our mind, into our understanding of the world. And we have the right to question everything. We have the right to put everything without fear and to analyze with our own minds, with our own world vision, and to start analyzing the pieces and taking out the pieces of all that we have, so we can see what is it that we want to keep for ourselves to move us forward, and what are the things that we prefer not to keep for ourselves, that we think that they are causing us, you know, harm, and they're causing us difficulty. Of course, we're not always going to see, you know, in the same light, and that's fine. Like I said, diversity is the key. Diversity is our wealth, and our unity is our strength. But for me, it's important to take a look at the entire African experience as a whole, and not just talk about only, you know, the 400 years. We understand that, you know, the Assyrian started attacking Africa over 3,000 years ago. I mean, although there were other attacks, but one of the most successful attacks of the African continent and the African people happened about a little bit over 3,000 years ago. So from then, we can start seeing that the Africans start to lose the historic initiative. And it's like from then that we can start looking at the slow progress of the decay of certain civilization, like the Kemetic civilization, that is an African civilization after many, many fights to even have that recognized, you know, thanks to Professor Shekanta Diop, you know, finally the truth was made about our history as being, you know, the people of Kemet, and, you know, called by the Greek Egypt. And we can own that, but then we also see the progression of all the other civilizations that came after, you know, Kemet, but now we even learning about the civilization that came before Kemet, and that's only show a great testimony of our ability to always reinvent ourselves in a way where life flourishes. So today, you know, the circumstances are, you know, of hardship indeed, but we have gone through other hardships before. We have gone through a lot of time. We had to reorganize ourselves in so many different ways and reinvent ourselves as African people in the world. And we have always succeeded. So my message, when it's really to say, it's a message of saying we are doing it. It's not that, you know, the situation is bleak, but we've lived much worse. You know, I cannot only think about the times where, you know, our ancestors were being kidnapped and we were being, you know, put on the boats and raped and shoved into, you know, the bottom of boats and beaten and killed and abused in so many ways for generation after generation, to see their own children being abused. I cannot imagine myself being even in Congo, you know, only before the independence, because my father was born during colonization. And my father could not walk around Congo. He had to have a special, pass. He had to have a special, stamp that said he can go visit his aunt and only go for 2 days, and that was his own country. I don't want to see myself in the time where they used to cut my ancestors' hands because they didn't produce enough rubber. Not to say that this situation today is, that we don't have hardship today, because I still deal with children in the street in the Congo, 40,000 only in Kinshasa alone. So if we even look at Africa as a whole, how many children sleep on the street without food? We can talk about all the different conflicts armed conflicts that are happening. We can talk about the injustice for African people all over the world. And I'm speaking for my people in Brazil, who are really, I hear from them every day, and they complain about the injustice, they complain about the abuse, they complain about, the systematic killing of Black men and Black women in Brazil. And we can see what's going on in the United States with the prison system, the industrial prison complex system, and the injustice system. We can see all these things, and we have to remain resilient, and we have to remain strong. And the more we are together, the more we realize that we are part of one family, the more we make a decision to be part of a family, because unity is a decision. Unity is not just, doesn't appear from thin air. Unity is a process, is a practice. It's something that we have to do every day. And we have to understand that we have a challenge ahead, because we are indeed so different. Some of us don't, this is not my native language. My native language is French, because, I was born from a history of a Belgian colony that spoke French. Some of you speak English, some of you speak Spanish, Portuguese, all these languages already, all these dividers already, are coming through. All these borders that were not invented by my great-grandfather, the King Chiemwata, or all the kings that preceded him, and all the other kings of Africa. All these lines that we put between us, it's not of our making. So today, when we make a decision of talking about unity, we have to start understanding that it's a process, and it's a commitment that we have to take every single day. When we rise up, we have to make that commitment to say, in what way I can work with my brother, in what way I can work with my sister, in what way I can work with my community, so I can add into the process of uniting the African people across the world. Because this is the new concept. We talk about Africa sometimes as this monolith, entity. The concept of this, Pan-Africa is a very new concept. It's a concept that our forefathers from outside of Africa actually thought about, before even the Africans of the continent understood the necessity for us to move towards, a unity. We have to start making sure that it's a practice that we teach our children from a young age, just like other people have done. Some people of different parts of the world, they have taught their children from the very young age that they are part of a unit, they are part of a people. And this is something that is so important to tackle or talk about education. So unity is a practice. Unity is a practice, and when you say practice, that means challenge. That means that we will hit our heads, we will bump each other, we will try to find commonalities, we will note the differences, and it will require of us a lot of courage sometimes to step back and to be humble and to realize that we don't always have the unique worldview. We don't have the chance to know better than everybody, and just like everybody, we are working our way to solving the problem. But one thing for sure, for me, I represent a lot of history. This is all what this symbolism is about. It's about not letting go of the immaterial heritage of our forefathers, because our true history is really the matrix that set our minds. And on that matrix, we imprint then all the other things that we learn during our life experience. So we have to understand how, that the worldview we will develop will come to lay itself on top of an initial matrix. When our initial matrix is being so damaged that only the 400 years past encompass for filling the whole space of who or what is our identity, indeed a serious problem. So I give a lot of credit and a lot of credence to our elders who are doing tremendous work in uncovering and working to preserve our history, our traditions, our understanding of the world, our understanding of our place in the universe and in the creation, our understanding of our ancestors understood what God is, because all of our tradition only talks about one God, one Vidye Mukulu, like in my language. And so we have to, go back to that Sankofa, go back, remember who we are, because only the day we are able to look at our true identity past, then we can add on to that all the experiences that we have accumulated all throughout the remaining of our history, including the fights that we are in today. So for me, the role of a traditional ruler, traditional leader, is not only to lead her people, like my people, the Bakwaluntu people of Kasai and the African descendants of Brazil, but it's a symbol to say we are hanging on tight to what is valuable to us as a people, because over 200,000 years of world experience, of life experience on this planet cannot just be dismissed and concentrate and focus in only 400 years of life experience. We have such a great potential based on the long experience that we've had. 3,000 years in our human history is a blip, but it's a blip that requires us to now mobilize ourselves, because we have a lot to bring about to have more balance, more equity, more prosperity in this world. We know now that the world of this civilization is coming in front of a major wall, because we see the results of a lot of the choices that have been made in order for us to have this manifestation right here. And the inconsistencies are so humongous that life on this planet itself, it's being threatened for the first time by our human activity. So that alone shows us that we are going on the wrong path. But for African people to be able to participate and to be able to steer, the human experience in another direction, we have to retake ownership of our historical historical initiative, and we have to start rethinking ourselves in terms of a global citizenship with the connection and with the different experience that Africa has had over these a couple of centuries, and what we have gained from this experience, the strength, the knowledge, and we can all bring it back so we can consolidate this new African identity. So I hope that we're going to continue to have discussions like this. We're going to continue to have a place for elders to come and teach us, to come and speak and explain to us about the experience, explain to us about what they know, what they've learned, their worldview, because we need to make sure that we encompass everybody, and we need to make sure that we integrate all these life experiences so that we can be wealthy in terms of our ability to provide for a better future for ourselves, for our children, and for this planet. Thank you so much.
That's greetings. So, it's a topic that we got to talk about, and we're talking about the family, and we're trying to save the Black families first by us cleaning out our own house, not letting someone else clean out our house for us, and able to unify as we are all different families coming together as becoming one Voltron family. So, Brother Rich, is there anything you want to interject before we go into our dialogue of families?
No, we can begin. Thank you, Queen, again for blessing the platform. Thank you to the King for blessing the platform. It's the first time I'm speaking with the King personally. Queen, the Ambi, we've spoken many times, so it's always a blessing to have you on. But yeah, let's begin the dialogue, because we've got a lot of powerful people on, so I know there's going to be a lot of powerful viewpoints. Hit that like button, people. You know what time it is.
Okay. So, Rich, open it up for us. You have the opportunity.
All right, well, we've already started off with the importance of family, and Sister Bello and Sister Tony already started off about talking about the role of the black woman in that structure. But I wanted to ask the king, what words do you have for the black males? Because again, we're here for the rites of passage. That's what we're trying to encourage for our young black males. So I wanted to start off by asking you, rites of passage why is it important? And why is it key to our young males?
Yeah. Thank you so much. As a matter of fact, when you capture the youth, you capture the future. And if you neglect the youth, you neglect the future. And even if we know now, those people who claim themselves as Israelites now, every year from the United States, they send their kids to Israel so they can learn the culture and learn things about Israel. So now, I'm really, really, really impressed that we're tackling the youth. Now, if we tackle the youth and we can empower them, give them the necessary education, and take them back to the roots of our history. As Queen Dambi said, not 400 years, but the ancient histories, the histories that teaches us who we are. Like things like we hear a Muslim word, Kaaba. Kaaba, where they say the temptation, Abraham, according to biblical context, Abraham had this temptation. It's an African word. In Ghana, it means Kaaba. Kaaba, temptation comes. So who are we? We created all these things. We were there before then. We created all, we had the history. But then, everything was taken away from us. And we lost our identity. As the royals, as the laws of genetics said, dark skin is dominant and other skins are recessive. So we are the original people. Right from the tip of the Congo, spreading to the Mediterranean, we were all there before the Assyrians started chasing us. And all these histories must be told to our young ones. And that will lead to empowerment. Now, even when they did us so much harm that they went into the history of even our names. In Ghana, we have names like Ashile. They changed it to Ashley. We have names like Kwatele. They changed it to Quatri, and so forth. They deciphered the language. The original language is for us. We, out of our languages, came all other languages. So the right to passage is just hitting it on the top of the nail. Let's get out and teach them the history. Because if you know your history, like Bob Nestamali will say, if you know your history, then you know where you are coming from. And that empowerment is what will revolutionize the African continent. So I say this, we are on the right direction. And let's always synergize like this. That as we are synergizing, we have to come together and put plans together. Like as the Right to Passage is doing, we have to organize, build the structures that will be sending our kids to visit Africa, interact with Africa, give them homes where anytime they go, they'll say, this is my home. All right. Give them names. That is their real names, not names that slave masters were given to them. So, I mean, this is a great thing. And I will put my weight behind and encourage it. and let it cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you again, coming from the Haitian Revolution side, which is what you special in, and you're native Haiti. Speak to us about the importance and the connection of our Black family, and whatever you wanted to say. If you had something to add on to the point before, please flow and what you need to say.
The key element in Haiti's history, which is not in the books, by the way. Okay, as you know, none of the women are mentioned. If they are mentioned, it's just maybe a first name, unattached to anything, no family connection, etc., etc. So, one great woman in our history, among the many, Tante Toya, and she did this work. And this is, to me, she is the best teacher in the world, because this is a woman who was captured from Dahomey. She was part of the Dahomean female army, because at the time, Dahomey had two armies, a female army and a male army. So she was captured, brought to Saint-Domingue, and there she wanted to raise a new army in Saint-Domingue, but did not meet the right people. So then she decided that since their motive, their late motive is conquer or die. So she started to collect plants so she would take herself off the planet. But as she was doing this work, she met a pregnant woman about to deliver. So she stayed to help her deliver. She gave birth to a boy. And a few days later, that woman felt death coming. So she gave the baby to the woman who helped her and asked her to please raise this child so he will know freedom. Now, Tante Toya is going to take this baby after burying the mother and taking care of things that she had to take care of. And she's going to take this child and she's going to make a very difficult decision to go back into the plantation, because she was a maroon at the time, to go back into the plantation because she felt unless this child knew slavery well, the child would not be able to bring freedom. So she brought the child back into the plantation with her. And she's going to raise this child, teaching him, as she herself mentioned, she taught him the history of great kings of Africa, the history of different structures in Africa that she knew. And indeed, the boy was initiated. And initiate means what? Besides the historical knowledge, besides the training, military training, she started training him at 5, giving him, because in their structure, when you enter the female army, you have to go in before you're 10. So when she took the boy, she started training him at 5, teaching him how to fight. But initiation is what makes the connect between your visible self and your invisible self. You could be the greatest, if there are two great military person, the one who is better connected to their inner self, to their invisible self, will certainly win over the one who only has great physical tactics. So she trained this young man, raised him, and we came to know him as Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who became a general in the army of Toussaint Louverture. And after Toussaint was kidnapped and taken away from Saint-Domingue and to France, he took over, he continued. And as we say in Vodun, life is a thread. It's a continued thread. This thread is made of engagement and responsibilities. Anytime you enter life, you will have to engage to whatever it is that you're going to be doing. And then you are responsible to accomplish what you have engaged yourself into. So in that light, Dessalines told us in 1802 Our fight, the entire universe will be part of it. At some point, nature will bring the rains. The rains will bring fever. Yellow fever will diminish the number of French soldiers across from us. I promise you, sometime we will fight, sometimes we will hide. But the last time we will come down the mountain, like thunder, we will smash the French army. They will have to give us the island. The island will be ours. He said that March 22, 1802. And on November 18, 1803, we were free. The last battle was made. Yes, people talk about, Dessalines is a great general. Of course he is. But more than that, he's a great visionary. Yes, he is. He's a great strategist. Yes, he is. But what we never talk about, he's also a highly spiritual man. He's an initiated man who is in touch with his inner self, and with his inner self is in touch with the cosmos. And that's what gave us the edge over a lot of other things. So the initiated child, the initiated gentleman, because I'm sure initiation doesn't happen just once in your life. At different points in your life, you have to be initiated into the next step of higher knowledge, higher understanding of your inner self, your outer self, the cosmos, and the body. The body is just like a uniform. You wear it whenever you need to. But if you don't know more than the body, you don't know very much. So it is through the knowledge. By the way, I must also, what they never mentioned, Dessalines speaks several African languages, at least 3 of them. He speaks French, he speaks Spanish, he speaks Haitian, but publicly, he never speaks French. He always speaks in Haitian language and have a translator. But when he's with his friends talking, he just don't, whatever they have to say in whatever language everybody else is comfortable with. But the key thing, he wasn't just a man who knew how to kick and shoot and make strategies. He was a highly spiritual man. And he has his true biography is not yet written, because whatever we have, the bits of information we have about him are just about little bits of who he was. And we must do the work. But the 2 things we must keep in mind as we raise our children today, they're never too young to be clear, to teach them what you want them to know and not what is brought to them. They're never too young for you to tell them the facts of life. I remember my first son, who's 50 now, he was maybe 5 or 4. We went to the doctor, and we had been doing a lot of history and whatnot. The doctor, we didn't have much money, so we went to a clinic, and the doctor was a white man. And my son said to me, he turned around and says, "Mommy, you really gonna let that devil put a needle in your child's body?" Well, I had no choice but to say, well, not today. I don't know for another day, but today we're going to go think about that. So we did not do what we came for, because the child's argument was, in line with what he had been taught. So I could not now just contradict myself in doing this. So then we'll learn how to make better choice of doctors when the children had to have shots and other things that they did not want to, because they had good arguments and you couldn't take them. You couldn't just say, no, well, today you have to. No, we couldn't do this. So when you make a stand, when you teach your child something, you have to be true to it too. So initiation is the connect between our physical self and our spiritual self. And no matter what profession, if you are an initiated person, then you can be better at what you do than the next person.
Bars, gems and bars. Thank you for that. And I like the way that tied back with your child, the very things that you've instilled in your child coming back to teach you again when you're in a situation. That's the beautiful thing. That's the circular nature of information, and as you said, being initiated. So I love that. We've been joined now by another giant of Black community, Professor James Smalls. How you doing, Elder? How you doing? Can you hear us? Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're hearing you now. Yeah.
Very good. Well, it's good.
We're all very pleased that you're joining us.
Yeah. So I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but I have all
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry I'm a bit late. All my grandkids, first time I've seen them in 6 or 8 months, so the house is full of children, and I had to attend to that.
Yes.
Of course.
That's Black family first. That is the theme. So we hold it against you not.
Very good.
Definitely. We're just, you've come to join us and support the cause. Before we get into the conversation and Terry starts that, again, people, you know why you're here. The Dr. Llaila Afrika Rites of Passage International Youth Exchange Program for 15 to 21-year-olds. This is the institute we're trying to initiate, and this is why all of these powerful brothers and sisters, elders, have come together to lend their support, lend their wisdom, and talk about our history and the importance of Black family. So, Riggsy, go on to the next question, here off, brother.
Okay. As we know, our elder and brother, and the one and only Professor James Smalls, who I class as one of my top teachers, and I appreciate all the work that he has given over the years, from the beginning to right now. And the one thing that he's always talked about is the rites of passage. And in honor of the rites of passage that we're doing in forms of Dr. Llaila Afrika, as we called it, the DLA International Rites of Passage body, into interacting with all the rites of passages and bringing them back home for them to have a place to do at least a 7 days rites of passage, in that they at least get some form of experience internationally. But Professor James Smalls, I want you to give your understanding of the rites of passage and why is it so needed within the family?
Well, I was listening to my younger sister, Baina, and she was just so on point, talking about initiation and rites of passage. What Dr. Hilliard taught us was that what the Europeans in this war against African peoples of all of these centuries had been successful in doing is taking away our human beingness. To be African is to be the human being. To be the human being is to be the God being. And so they've interfered in the process by which we teach our children to be God being again. In almost every African language, the word for person, people, place, or thing, either the suffix or the prefix, have the word for God in it. And so we need to understand that when we look back at our culture, because our ancestors are most extraordinary teachers. They are primary teachers. And that culture is the university that the ancestors created to do intergenerational transmission of the wisdom of the ancestors before them. And so anytime we are talking about rites of passage, we're talking about restoring the African to being an African again before the contamination of the outsiders. And so any process we engage in, the ancestors must be central in that, because we are our ancestors. When our parents gave birth to us, they gave birth to themselves. They in turn had been given birth to by their parents, who gave birth to themselves. If you go backwards on that chain, you will get to the totality of the universe when it first gave birth to itself as a human being, the thing we call God, our greatest ancestor, it gave birth to itself. And so we are just the continuum of that. Excuse me. And so when we talk about the rites of passage, we have to begin to restore the qualities and the attributes of the ancestors' understanding on how to build the God person, the human character. You know, we got the physical self, we've got the soul self, and then we've got that extraordinary energy vibration, which is the divine, the spiritual self. And sometimes we deal in the Western world, they can get to the soul self to some degree and definitely to that physical self, but they don't have the capacity to contain the spiritual self. But they fooled us with religion into thinking they have that capacity. So when we are beginning to restore our children, we have to let them know from the beginning, you are God having a human experience. You are an expression of an aspect of the divine essence having this experience as you. You know, and when we talk about the Netters, we talk about the Orishas, we talk about the Obosum, we talk about the Loas, we talk about the quality and the attributes of the divine in the form of symbolic imagery or bebes that explains that energy. And we try to make that a part of ourselves. When I did, and I've been initiated in a lot of systems, but say the Yoruba system, where I was initiated into the house of Oya, or the school of Oya. And there's the symbol of Oya is this beautiful woman with the locks running around, but that's the symbol that we use to explain a concept and ideas and sets of principles. So to really be a teacher of Oya, I've got to learn the concepts, ideas, and principles, adapt them to my character, and then practice that as my daily behavior to help transform others, because that house is called the house of change and transformation. And so when we think of how we're going to initiate these children in the short period of times we have with them, let's come up with a set of qualities that we know they need to go forward. Then come up with a methodology to have them learn those qualities so that they can begin to practice them in their daily habits, and that those qualities become a part of who they are as they go forward into the world. And all of those qualities should be traced back in the discussion to our ancestors and to our cultural systems, because we don't really need anybody else's systems. We don't need to innovate on their systems. We don't need their systems. All of their systems are fragments from our system's periphery. We don't need fragments or to become holograms of fragments of ourselves. We need to return to ourselves. To be the African human being again is to be that aspect of God that's doing what needs to be done. And I'll end with this one thing that I've been trying to use to explain this. No babies float down out of the sky. There's no stork that come in with a basket. When that woman gives birth to that child, she is an aspect of God as the creator. The only way creation takes place among human beings is from the womb of that woman after the intercourse with that man. So we are that part of God that creates and bring life forth. So we're not separate from the thing. We're a part of that thing. And that's something we have to teach to our children. And then as they grow, they learn more about how to be a greater part of that greater thing. And that's where the force of spirit comes alive in you. Because when you find the universe in you, when you find the God in you, when you learn the divine in you, you'll recognize it at any stage of its growth in anyone else. And you know who to bond with and who to union with, or who to stay away from. So I hope that kind of give a little bit to that. Yeah. I didn't make it sound complex.
Well appreciated. As Mama T has to do certain things and she has to go shortly. But Mama T, I just want you to give a short word to the general public and to talk about the family unification in that Black family first.
Well, again, Professor Small, good to see you, and
It's good to see you, Doctor.
How are you, dear?
I'm
And
good. I'm good.
I mean, and then to hear from my daughter, the great queen, on the historical aspects. I do want to just take a minute to add to what she said. We didn't just sit here. You know, I'm a Hebrew biblical scholar, and I just opened my Bible to Numbers, and there's a map there. I'm using the Schofield Bible, and there we are sitting with Egypt. We have had the ins and outs of family development, war, peace, since beginning of time. You know, sometimes we act like this is a new idea, but it is a new idea. We are the original people of the book. This is not nationalistic. It's anthropological. It's geographical. The ideas of what we have has started in Africa. I mean, we can't put Egypt somewhere. We can't put Ethiopia somewhere else. We can't put the Nile River in New York. We can't put the Euphrates in England. We have to come to an understanding of who the people who started all of this, or why did God even pick us to start all of this behavior and all of this life on earth. And I think we've missed a lot of that because we've, instead of becoming universally, as Professor just said, we are spirits having a human experience. And we can keep acting like we're humans with a spirit. And so it has caused us to be in soul sleep so deep that we continue to fight and argue and miss the point of what God was doing originally with us. What is our role and our purpose? I think Dr. Llaila asked that question earlier. Why are we here? And so we keep having these conversations. I saw today an amazing biography on Muhammad Ali. And while we think of him as a fighter, he spent so much time being a revolutionary. I mean, if you really get deep into his conversations, not only with Malcolm X, but with Martin Luther King, and his whole purpose centered around freedom. Someone asked him what would he do if he stopped being a boxer. He said, I'd continue working on the most important thing in the world, and that's freedom. So I'm saying there's a long, long history. 1920, Marcus Garvey wrote the Freedom Charter for the Negro. You should really, the manifesto of how we should live was written by Marcus Garvey, and who never got to Africa, but kept pointing us to Africa. So I think there's a long history of continuity that we keep forgetting. And because we keep forgetting it, we keep repeating it. And so now we're in a stage where, yes, we have extended family. We should have extended family. I believe clearly that the family of the heart is stronger for me than the family of the blood, because, of course, the blood could be a crapshoot. You don't know who you're getting and when you come into a family. But the ones you pick, the ones who pick you heart to heart and breast to breast, sometimes have a stronger affinity to you. And so I think we're asking the right questions, but I think these questions have been asked before. And I think these questions are going to continue to be asked until, I think Queen Diambi talked about unity and Ubuntu. And I just wonder constantly why we find ourselves in the same place over and over again. And I think that's an important conversation we need to have. Why are we here again? You know, why are we in the place of racism hitting us all over again? Why are we constantly finding ourselves with our Black men in prison, unwed mothers, levels of abortion? Why are we here again? And I think that we've missed our spiritual connectivity. And I think that all of us who understand are saying the same kind of thing, that we're missing the God factor in such a way that's not religious, but that's relational. And I think we have to unpack this deeply, deeper than we have to have a deep dive into that, because I'm 70 years old and I've been in this conversation at least 10 times over the years. Everyone's talking about, I mean, I remember, I don't know, 30 years ago, we had the Black Family March in Washington. I mean, it just, we keep coming back to some things that I'm not battle fatigued, but I'm curious as to what are we missing that we don't fix it when we have it. You understand what I'm asking? Professor, I don't know about you, but I've been here before. We keep being here, and the smartest elders, the brightest thinkers, we've had them. We literally have the best and the brightest in every field, which I'm sure is what drives white people crazy, because they think I mean, the more you hurt us, the bigger we become, the more you kill us, the more we become, the more you keep us from education and different areas, the better we are. I mean, Black people in tennis, Black people in golf, Black people playing chess, Black people, every time you put us anywhere, we excel over and above. I mean, John Glenn would not go into a spaceship unless a Black woman did his calculations by hand. I mean, our history is so full, whether we're talking about Songhai, whether we're talking about Mali, whether we're talking about Egypt, Himtek, Hotep, wherever we talk, we are always doing the best. And yet we are still finding ourselves plagued by poverty, plagued by underdevelopment, plagued by, as Diambi mentioned, 40,000 children, and just in the streets of Kinshasa. You can find them everywhere, street children in Nigeria. We have them here in Johannesburg. So I'm just saying, as smart as we are, we keep coming to this dumb place.
Well,
as brilliant as we are, we keep coming to the same conversation. I've just been in this conversation just a lot. And for myself, I'm asking, what can I do? What have I done? What do I need to do to advance us to the next level? Because somehow we get stuck at these certain levels. So that's just my query. I don't even have an answer for it, because it's one I ask myself.
Let me, Mother, if you don't mind, it's like I'm in the Masonic Lodge, and I hear a lot of stuff about that, but it's just another school of thought to study our way. And they have a parable about the stone that the builders rejected, and that stone would become the head of the corner. That stone is Africa. See, Africa is the only stone that can build the building we're talking about. The same sun shines in Nigeria and does the same thing in Nigeria that it does in Palestine, that it does in South Africa, that it does in Mali. The same constellations move all over the world. I see that same constellation in Haiti, in South Carolina. I see the same moon wherever I'm at. There's a law of nature that our ancestors call into what we call culture, their understanding of the laws of nature. There's a law of cosmology that our ancestors understood, and they made those things into their school called culture. Now, culture is how you do your intergenerational transmission of the wisdom of the generation before. Where we're failing at is creating institutions around these ideas that we're talking about. And then we have to be the light in the darkness. Live what we say we know, no matter how many forces come against you. Live that light, and they have to come towards you. Our people will come. They're in the darkness. Someone has blocked them from this body of information. And this body of information is what we're all talking about. Whether we bring it through the vessels of Udun, or bring it through the vessels of the Ogosun, of the Akan, or through the deities of the Ga, or through the Hebrew tradition, I can take any Hebrew set of qualities and every name in the Hebrew book for a deity, and I can match it up with a Loa. I can match it up with a Abosun. I can match. We are trying to do the same thing. We're trying to say there's a set of rules that should govern the human behavior and character building such that they become the human being that we were originally created to be. But the only format for that is African. Africa has to be the center of everything. I think you gave me that piece that Dr. Hilliard said, that freedom is to be shackled to your identity.
Yes.
Let's find out, what is that identity? That identity is to be God-like in character. The only thing we know about God is what our minds have explained to us. Nothing that's dropped down out of the sky other than the ideas and our observation, but we have described it. We wrote all those books. We created all those sculptures. Even when we walk through a museum or we go to Africa, we see all these carvings and sculptures. If we think from the Western minimum mind, oh, what beautiful art. But the sculptor was saying, I am giving a message. I am telling a story with a face, with lines, with niches. I'm giving you a parable. I'm giving you a set of ideas. We have to learn to read the carvings again. We have to learn to read the paintings again. The ancestors left us all the tools we need, but we won't study their book.
Professor, that's my point. Okay, that's my point. Okay, the first thing is we do have a guide. The nature is our guide. We didn't have to make up a book. You can look at nature never fails us. So our first understanding of God, we can see it in nature. I'm not questioning whether we have the information. I'm asking another deeper question. We've had this information before. We had this information in the 1800s, in the 1850s, in the 1900s. We've had great and amazing minds who have told us so many things and have left us so many markers. We have so many markers that have been left. And yet, for some reason, we remain in the same state of emergency that we're in. I'm not suggesting that we don't have all the things you just said, all the understandings. We have books, we have Egyptology, you can name it. We have explored it, we've discussed it, we've had it, and then we've had great minds, including those ones on this call today, who have expressed it, but our people worldwide. You can say Africa is the center, yes, but we have immense issues in Africa. I mean, Queen Diami mentioned the street children. We just signed, Zimbabwe just signed to give white people $3.5 billion for the land they stole if they got a building on it. I mean, we are stuck somewhere. I think I know where we're stuck. But
let me tell you why I think this.
Again and again is what I'm saying. And what I'm asking now, Terry and Richie particularly, because of this Black Ice TV, is let's put some hard questions to us so-called intellectuals, thinkers, leaders about where are we going from here? Martin King wrote a book, Why We Can't Wait. Then he asked the question, where do we go from here? Because otherwise, we're going to be here again in 20 years.
Right. Here's one thing that we really refuse to consider. The laws of nature deals with cause and effects. Dr. Ben tried to explain us as the laws of opposites. Something is at war with something.
Yes,
and in our situation, we are not aware that something is at war with us, and we must be at war with it. And that's the piece that's really missing. We are at war with a force of nature, which is at war with a force of nature, which we are. When we realize that we are at war with this other force, then we'll know how to do what to do. But we keep assuming that we can absorb that other force into us. The way nature is created, you cannot bring negative to positive or positive to negative. They have their own place, and we need to leave them in their place, and we need to secure our place. That is the war of nature that's going every second of the day in nature. But we don't move like that. We think we can make Chinese people good Africans, white people good Africans. That's never going to happen. Creation didn't create them to be good Africans. They created them to do exactly what they're doing to us. We have not come back to realizing that we have to do what we must do to them by doing something for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mama T,
Yeah.
let me interject. We are at a deadlock. The reason being that we are naive of the spirituality we have. If I say the spirituality we have, there are deeper things. You see, during the dawn of creation, some of the angels were cast down on earth, and they occupy sensitive things in this world, even our mountains, our rivers, and even our resources. For these angels to have liberation depend on we humanity. Well, we have the key to appeal to the infinite creator for liberation for them. And in Africa as a whole, we've neglected it. Okay, before I go into details on that, when I was installed about 3 years ago, the Okanse family was like a magnet. They brought cinema to Ghana. They brought commercial banking to Ghana. They brought the first newspaper to Ghana. They brought Nnamdi Azikiwe and Wallace Johnson to open the Evening Post. And the wealth of the creator of the Okanse family was so enormous. Even during slave trade, they owned ships that was trading in commodity. All of a sudden, this wealth diminished. It diminished because the kings that came professed they are Christians. So what belongs to Caesar that has to go to Caesar was neglected. And when all those things were neglected, those spirits that we have to do things for, that through us, God will accept them. Instead of the positivity they had, they were using to help us, it all went into negativity. When Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Ghana, people think he was just a revolutionary. He talked about Pan-Africanism and brought things to Africa. No. Before he built the dam in Ghana, he has to fast for 21 days, spirituality. Invoke the spirit of the Volta and ask the spirit of the Volta, you are here. What service do you have for these people who live here? And he said, okay, this is damn me here and I'll provide electricity for them. But this is what I want. Give what I want to me. And I'll give that liberation. And when that was done, he built that dam. When Nkrumah came to power, and that year, 9 years he stayed, any African country he went to, it's not a physical liberation, but a spiritual liberation. The spiritual liberation, he planted leaves in countries and liberation. White people couldn't stay and they started moving plants. You know, when George Washington was fighting for the War of Independence, what happened? The spirit of the Delaware, a beautiful lady, approached him about 4 p.m. when the sun was going down. He said, son of the Republic, awake, open your eyes and see the future of this nation. In a trance, he saw beautiful things. I'm a Mason too. He was the grandmaster of the Mason. He saw beautiful things, nations, a beautiful nation. And he said, if you can give me a virgin, then they were almost defeated at the War of Independence. He said, if you can give me a virgin, I will give you liberation. He told him that he was a wise man. He said, I haven't created a human being. How can I give you a virgin? But if you can stand for us to achieve this liberation you are talking about, I will immortalize you and show the world that you gave us liberty. And with connivance, we could see the connection with France. And the Statue of Liberty donated to France. So, these white people have their rituals, things they do to make those negative spirits calm down. And instead of negativity, they project positivity to them. Here they came with the Bible, that they've taken everything from it and handed it over to us. And back to the Arkansas, when some of the kings and queens came, they said, oh, these things are fetish. We don't want to touch these things. And our homes, the kingdom started crumbling. Everything left us. All the wealth went away. Could you believe that? In Adan, we have a room, a sacred room, which we call the ancestors' room, which the Jewish call the tabernacle. And there we have seats for our great prophet and kings that passed. And whenever they install you, they take you to that room. And when they take you to that room, things have been done for you. But most of the kings that came, they don't, oh, this fetish we don't want. Even the herbs that is growing on the earth that you are using, you call it fetish. So everything started going down. I said, no, we are not going to do this. We are going to do the rituals of our ancestors. We have to invoke the spirits of our ancestors. We have to call them, tell them where we went wrong and what we will do to install the past glory. They told me for 50 years, they never even touched those things. I made them, they brought all the seeds out of the ancestors. They bathed them, they purified them, cleaned them. And now, if not of the COVID, next year I'm taking them to the sea for them to do the utmost rituals for them. In Africa, sorry I'm being too long. In Africa, we have presidents who doesn't even know the spirit of the nation. Where we are occupying, they don't know the spirit of the nation. They don't know how to govern. Because when you want to govern a nation and people, you have to govern them spiritually before you can govern them physically. But the spiritual aspect has been left in Africa. So these spirits, they are there. Instead of them creating prosperity for us, they are creating confusions, war. And the white people know that with the Bible, they can put us in that corner. And there they do it. The Queen of England, they kept him there for what? Every year at the Britannia, they have rituals they do. Every year in America, inside the Statue of Liberty, there are rituals they do. When you go to Germany, they have the great oak tree. They cover it with calico. They don't, some time of the year, they don't wear slippers. And they say, we are celebrating our ancestors' day. What do we do in Africa? We don't. Our leaders don't know anything. So it's time. That's why we are stuck. We cannot move forward. It's time we find the spirit of our nations or the spirit of Africa and invoke the spirit of Africa. And the spirit will tell us what to do to have liberation and freedom in Africa. So that is why we have all the intelligent people. We have all of them doing everything, but still we are stuck in one place because we left the spirituality and we are pursuing the physical. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But remember, a lot of this, though, is the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. See, so we have to, like I'm saying, that's a perfect answer. We have lost our way with God. We have so many different gods, and all due respect to being Masons. My father was a 33-degree Mason. I was an Isis, but again, it's off the track of being. I'm an African Hebrew Israelite, and I'm kind of stuck in the text. And as I learn more of the text and the spirit and the nature, it drives me more back to a peaceful, authentic relationship with God. Because we have embraced so many false gods and so many false ideologies that we really don't know who we are and whose we are. And everybody's right. So, everybody says their way is right. They have the only God. They have the only way. All of that's happening in the context of trying to build our people. So that's another issue. How do we bring it all down to the Creator God and not all these bifurcated understandings of who God is? I think Bella has an idea of the institutions that need to come again. And how do we have institutions? It's a terrible thing, this New World Order word, the New World Order word. But in God's mind, he thought we would all have unity. We would have diversity and unity, and we would be one people. But it's very difficult in modernity when everybody says they're the people and their God is the God and their way is the way. So we are also, I guess, strapped down by all these idolatry. I don't even know any other word. We're one of the great things about this COVID is we've closed so many places of idolatry because we've made men idolatry, we've made women idolatry idols, we've made the buildings idols, and we've gotten away from the true and living God. And the true and living God has made himself known or herself known. We know, but our brains are so bifurcated with so many ideologies of other people. And we've picked up so many bad habits from the pink people. We have to admit, we join things, we're part of things, we're this group, we're that group, we're Skull and Bones, we're Masons, we're ISIS. Where does that fit in with the one true and living God? We don't want to discuss it because we get entrenched in ideologies that are not ours.
Let's discuss it. First of all, Freemasonry existed even before the ascension of the Hebrews.
That's true.
I'm a good scholar on it. I can take it all the way back to Kemet and down into Congo where it came from. What we're not doing, we're not going back to Africa because we've made the things in Africa idols.
Idols.
And they're not. Like Nana, I'm Kofi Mpansa II. Well, I've been to that schoolhouse and spent my 3 days. And I've let those elders ascend upon me, and the one that has chose me as Nana Kofi Mpansa II. The Africa, everything else we know is an innovation on the core Africa. The Ewe word for the divine is Sobe Lisa. It means the totality of creation itself, not an individual him or her or thing. The totality of creation itself. It's omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent, and supreme. Nothing can exist but it. All of the rest of its existence is an aspect of it. There isn't a single African indigenous culture that doesn't speak to the divine in its oneness and its totality. It looks at the divine as one that comes and gives off its light into pieces. The West look at the divine in the pieces and try to make it the one. And we're caught up in that. I believe that I am nothing more than an expression of an aspect of Sobelisa, the totality of creation, having this experience with my peculiar responsibility to the repairing and the perfecting of the divine itself. The core of what we need to do, and we have not done it, is go back to the most indigenous African expression of the divine and go back to the core of our ancestors' body of knowledge that they've left us. Now, everybody has a little piece of it, but nobody go back to the whole. Go back to the Akanadi shrine, but Nana Parabia, up in Latte, and see, what are they talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What are they trying to tell us? And we're not going to know if we're trying to take halfway markers back to the ancestors. No, we got to go back to them. I don't exist unless I'm restored in my authenticity and my originality before being contaminated by anything else. And that means we must go back to the indigenous people who created the Nile Valley. They came out of Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Ghana, Cameroon, and they came by their boats. And they got to this beautiful Nile Valley, and they combined their understanding, and they built that phenomena. When that phenomena was crashed and set upon, those who held the core escaped, and we call them the Hebrew Israelites, because they didn't get crashed by that. But there were still millions and millions of us still there in Africa who did not go to the east, to Canaan. We went back to Ghana. We went back to Nigeria. We went back to Congo. We went back to Cameroon with the same body understanding that our ancestors is our eternal rope that we lead back to the divine creator itself.
That's right.
And we are afraid to really go into the depth of Africa's belly, in her womb.
That's exactly right. That's right.
To go forward.
And remember, before 1844, there was no Cameroon, there was no Nigeria. There was
those names, but now I'm talking about location. Yeah.
If we go back, we have to go back to when we were really one people. I mean, we really
throw all the names out. All the families that came from those geographical locations, we use them now. But those geographical locations were there. And we came from all over and created a phenomena through unity. Right. The only thing that makes Egypt of any significance is that it was a unified Africa that came and created a phenomena based on God.
Yes.
When we got attacked and destroyed, we went back home, but we didn't leave our knowledge behind. It went in our brain. It was in our head. It was in our action. It was in our language. Language right now is the greatest encyclopedia and gatekeeper of what we are looking for.
Yes, I think the etymology of what we're saying is critical, but you hit on the biggest answer you hit on, Professor, is going back to the authentic, unadulterated relationship with the creator, the creator God, if you will. We had that. And as many attacks on us, whether it's Christianity, Islam, whatever the religions or the organizations, they have pulled us away from the relationship with the one true God. And I believe because of that, we can't fix the things that ail us. We keep talking about the things that ail us, and we keep coming up with solutions for the symptoms. But I think we're in a place now, and I think Queen Diambi hit on it the first beginning of this conversation. We have to go back to get to the root of the issues, not just the symptoms. We spend a lot of time on the symptoms. We live a lot of conversation, a lot of money, a lot of effort. But what is the root of our problem in Africa? It's our relationship or lack thereof with the Creator, a real authentic relationship.
Yes, but everything is a process. Therefore, even when we are aiming to get to that root, we have to have systematic steps. And we have to understand that the so-called education that we have received in our enemy's school is a number one block to even when we see a picture, even if we saw it written in full fire, that this is the original creators, well, we would still have our mind twisted with all the other stuff that we have had in this mind and make us take it upside down.
Of course.
So that's why I say we have to look at have a methodology to decolonize our minds. We cannot be going about saying, yeah, I'm Professor Baina Bello of philosophy. The great Frederick Ingold said, I'm a professor of history, and I'm naming all my enemies as references to my students. So when you do this, you in total, no matter how much you say you believe in this, that, and the other, but the whole process on top of it, we're doing this in his language, in the colonial language. We
Yes.
are expressing their thoughts and ideas that they gave us in school. So we have to do an entire different process to decolonize our minds before we can get to decolonizing our soul. And in the soul, that's where you're going to deal with the creator. But if you
already have
your mind and your language, then we're not gonna, we have to take it. It's a process. We have to establish the methodology.
But we have some people who have done that. Marcus Garvey did it in 1920. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has laid out a whole program, whether we believe in the Black Muslims or not. He laid out a program of the way forward. Marcus Garvey wrote a universal declaration of Negro rights in 1920. We've had these.
I taught at the University of Muhammad University of Islam for a number of years. I worked in some of their, but it still did not touch what we're talking about right now. There's some things that we're not touched. We're talking about the fundamentals. I mean, you have to establish references in philosophy. For example, when I always, in all my classes, I give my students texts from Amunhotep, Ethiopian philosopher of 5,000 years ago. Now, okay, those who went through my class have that, but the others in the same university, how do they look at the ones who say, Amunhotep, what's that? Nobody ever seen this. Nobody ever heard of it. Okay, so the fact that one small school or one small teacher or one something did, that's not it. We need to build the whole methodology and then to have school systems that are taking it. That's when you're going to start to do the change. I look at even just at Fondation Félicité in Haiti. I was told when I first started 20 years ago.
Mr. Rites, and I'm the UK tour guide to the rest of the world, and I do demonstrations of understanding our history and how do we move forward. Take it from the past and bring it to the future.
Against all the wrongs, for my leaders as gone. All my leaders as gone. Although they did you so wrong, I still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, Imagine if Malcolm would've never got killed. Crack in the hallways would've never got filled.
We are here outside the office, UNIA, understanding that our history and demonstrations of what we understand about Marcus Garvey and his philosophy and becoming his philosophy and able to pushing this forward. He had his new newspaper business, he had his collaborations, and he actually died in London. I'm here with my brother here right now.
My name is Mukoko. I'm an artist from Congo. Spiritual mind. I'm just coming here to learn more about the story about Marcus Garvey.
This what we facing, stuck in a world that's gone cold, with no feeling of control. As we wonder what it is and we wonder what it was.
This is the history of Marcus Garvey. This park was built in his name, and you know, it's about growth and growing. A Pan-African philosophy to inspire the global mass movement. He lived in the borough from 1933 to 1940.
All the wrongs for my leaders as gone. All my leaders as gone.
Story about black people. Black people was in a lot of place in Europe, in Africa and everything. So I try just to make the story in my fashion and in my music.
What it's about is you understand the legacy, understanding the length of what he had done and able to influence people in many different ways. We need to understand our history. We need to see what mistakes we did and how we can be able to upgrade ourselves from that history. Our ancestors laid the paved way for us. Black people have always been here. Musicians have always been here, and seeing the artists, we understand that this has been influenced from our past and our history. They're in all over different types of museums within the vicinity of London, UK and worldwide. Your creativity is what feeds you. During and before and after slavery, there were people, free African people within the community. It's Francis Williams. Someone that looks respected. Look right in the middle. This was done in a period of time of a reflection of how they saw people at that time. One of the main guys that helped to abolish slavery, which is the 16th, the Moor, at that time of the 1500s, which this artwork was done. In the procedures of looking at the hat, you can understand the kind of the fez kind of hats that they wore, the jewelry that they wore on the chain, the earrings were pierced back then, and understanding the full length of look. And one thing is, he wasn't in chains. It makes you think this is the book of the Duke of Florence, who was half Medici and half African. Look at the silks. This is what the kind of things that we wore out in our kingdom. When we was making our materials, it just shows you the extent of wealth. Now you can see 1, 2, 3. What's going to be happening on the 3rd and the 4th of August, which is the Black History Weekender. Loads of history that which you will see and demonstrated on this video in explaining why it's paramount for us to be able to teach and learn our history, and for us to unite as an African diaspora with the African people on land, and understanding that we need to take our history and bring it into the forefront of understanding for our youth, creating our legacy. I brought in my brother to see what he could receive on the day of the 3rd and 4th of August.
It was a beautiful journey today to see and to learn more and to know more about our story. So the event will be in August?
Yeah, it'll be in August on the 3rd and the 4th.
Just come and see and
enjoy and come to get into the formalities of the experience of being a tourist once again. Because it's in August, you should bring your children, bring your family, and bring everyone to get engaged with it, and let's become one unit once again.
Or if you want to follow me, go to website Nkoko Official. And about fashion, it's Coco Ornament. So it's all about clothing and everything.
If you're lucky, you might get him to sing or perform for you when he releases his new music at the time of the event. This is Terry Riggs, Mr. Riggs, New Beginnings, Black Ice TV, the one and only station. Check it out on YouTube.
Against all the wrongs for my leaders as gone. All my leaders as gone. Although they did you so wrong, I still standing here.
you.